At 80 years old, Michael Douglas finally shattered decades of silence. The Hollywood legend revealed a truth so unexpected, so raw, it left even his closest fans stunned. He described his marriage to Catherine Zeta-Jones with a single, chilling word: horrors. For years, the world saw a glamorous power couple, a fairy tale romance playing out on red carpets. But the reality Michael shared was far darker, a secret burden he carried in the shadows. Behind closed doors, the picture was agonizingly different. He confessed to moments when Catherine's episodes left him terrified, unsure how to help or what to say. Imagine a man who controlled every expression on screen, standing helpless in the face of something he couldn't script or fix. Then, his own cancer diagnosis struck like a thief, stealing his strength and voice. The true horror, he admitted, wasn't just the illness itself. It was the crushing guilt of feeling like he was dragging his family into another crisis. He felt like he was failing as a husband and father, trapped in a golden cage of fame. Everything we thought we knew about their perfect love story was wrong. From the outside, their love story shone like a Hollywood dream. Two massive stars, Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones, fell into a whirlwind romance. They were instant royalty in the public eye. But even as cameras flashed and headlines celebrated their union, a quiet, difficult truth was forming behind the perfect smiles. Michael and Catherine faced unseen pressures from the very beginning. Their significant age difference, a full 25 years, was not just a number. It quickly became fuel for constant public whispers and doubt. Many critics simply did not believe their marriage would last. Catherine often admitted people told her their relationship would never stand the test of time. She was even cruelly labeled a gold digger by some tabloids. This unwanted scrutiny became instant ammunition for newspapers, making their personal connection a public debate. Even in their happiest early moments, Michael felt a quiet cracking inside him. He knew he carried the weight of a future he wasn't sure he could escape. He worried he might become too old, tired, or weak for the woman he adored. Catherine, too, felt the immense pressure of living in the shadow of a man the world had loved for decades. She sometimes felt like a shadow even in her own home. These early, hidden strains began to chip away at their perfect image, showing the true weight their unique situation put on them from the start. The blinding lights of Hollywood faded when Michael Douglas received a terrifying diagnosis: stage 4 oral cancer. This wasn't a movie script. It was a brutal, real-life fight for his very existence in 2010. He underwent grueling chemotherapy and radiation, treatments that left him completely drained and struggling. Watching her husband battle for his life was unbearable for Catherine. She later expressed fury that doctors hadn't found the tumor sooner, feeling helpless as Michael faced his fight. She spoke of seeing his constant fatigue, a man who was never tired, now utterly worn down.
But this wave of tragedy wasn't over. While Michael fought cancer, Catherine was secretly battling her own demons. The intense pressure of his illness, combined with other family struggles, pushed her to a breaking point. She was diagnosed with Bipolar II disorder, a condition marked by severe mood swings and deep depression. This devastating news meant two major health crises struck their family almost back to back, straining their marriage to its absolute limits. The sheer weight of it all led to a temporary separation in 2013, with sources close to them confirming the immense stress had simply taken too heavy a toll. Some even pointed to Michael's public comments about the cause of his cancer as a final straw for Catherine before the split. Their private reality was far from the glamorous image the world saw. It was a harrowing journey through illness and personal pain that changed everything they thought they knew about their love. In 2013, after almost 13 years of marriage, the unimaginable happened. Michael and Catherine announced their separation. The public saw a simple statement about taking a break to evaluate and work on their marriage. But behind those calm headlines, the situation was far more desperate. The marriage was crumbling under immense pressure. Some close to them even whispered that it was all over, with no way back. The truth was that years of intense strain had created an unbearable chasm between them. Michael's brutal battle with throat cancer had taken a massive toll. At the same time, Catherine was quietly fighting her own war against bipolar II disorder, seeking treatment in secret. Adding to this crushing weight was the heartache of Michael's son serving a prison sentence. This constant barrage of personal crises chipped away at the foundation of their love. Michael later spoke with raw honesty about this period. He admitted that the real horror wasn't even his illness itself. It was the crushing guilt. The guilt of feeling like he was dragging his family through one crisis after another. The guilt of watching Catherine struggle with her own mental health while also trying to care for him. He felt like he was failing everyone, as a husband, a father, and a partner. The painful reality was laid bare. They were living apart, often on different continents. For months, they hadn't been seen together in public. Catherine felt lost, invisible behind the image of the famous Michael Douglas. She felt like a shadow, even in her own home, constantly reminded that people saw him first. The fear of disappearing, of becoming a supporting role in her own life, weighed heavily on her. This was not just a temporary break. It was a deep breakdown that threatened to end their marriage forever. Yet, despite these intense challenges, Michael confessed that the greatest horror of all was simply imagining a life without Catherine. Their return to one another was far from a storybook reunion. It was raw and heavy with unspoken pain. Catherine walked back into their home not with grand declarations, but with a weary honesty. "I'm not making any promises," she whispered. "I just want to come home." Michael simply nodded, because promises were words they had both run out of. From that moment, their home found a different kind of quiet. It wasn't the cold silence of before, but a tired truce. It was two people choosing not to damage what little they had left. Michael later confessed that during their separation he had sought comfort elsewhere, not out of malice, but from a desperate need to escape himself. Yet every attempt to find connection with someone new only reminded him of Catherine. He realized he was not searching for new love, but for a reflection of her in someone else's shadow. This painful truth solidified his commitment.
Their reconciliation was stripped of romance. It was real, born from exhaustion and a deep, shared history. There were no renewed vows or sudden surges of passion. Instead, rebuilding involved small, deliberate gestures, morning coffee shared in silence, a gentle hand on a shoulder when passing in the hall, a door softly closed instead of slammed. They faced the brutal truth that the age difference, once a cute side note, had become a real issue. Catherine, full of life, felt overshadowed, while Michael feared becoming a burden. Their path back was about choice. It was choosing forgiveness. It was choosing patience. It was choosing growth, and deciding to stay even when walking away seemed easier. The true horror, Michael admits, was simply imagining a life without her. This quiet understanding, forged through immense pain, was the unspoken pact that kept their family together. Now, at 80, Michael Douglas finally reveals the devastating truth behind a Hollywood marriage the world once called a fairy tale. For 2 decades, he remained silent, convinced that the bright lights of red carpets could somehow hide the loneliness and fractures no one dared to name. But today, he speaks the truth he's feared his entire life. He confesses that love doesn't die from betrayal. Instead, it can slowly erode within the golden cage of fame itself. Their survival, Michael explains, wasn't a stroke of luck. It was a conscious choice. They chose forgiveness, patience, and growth, committing to stay even when walking away seemed far easier. The real horror, he admits, was not the struggles, the illnesses, or the emotional toll, but the terrifying thought of imagining a life without Catherine. She became the woman who saved him, who softened his edges, who grounded him when he felt lost, and who pulled him back from fear. She taught him what a true partnership looks like. Michael admits that the horrors he faced were undeniably real, deeply painful, and utterly human. Yet every single one of those challenges was worth surviving. They forged a love stronger than fame, more resilient than illness, and more powerful than the world that tried to break them apart. He reflects that sometimes people don't return to a relationship simply because they are still in love. They return because the world outside can be even colder than the one they left behind. In a lifetime filled with noise, the quiet understanding between two broken souls can become a kind of home.
Love, in their story, didn't always win in a grand sweeping victory. Instead, it simply learned how to breathe again after nearly dying. They finally learned to see each other not as legends, but as survivors of the same long, difficult storm.